there is absolutely no way. There's no way Masai Ujiri ends up going through with this, because this morning we heard rumblings about RJ Barrett potentially being available, and now we're getting an even crazier report linking the Toronto Raptors to Brandon Ingram. That's right, Brandon Ingram, who does not fit the timeline of this team, doesn't fit the contract stuff, so we'll discuss that, including a new signing the Toronto Raptors did make today, for one of their 10-day guys. But I am pretty fired up because today has just been a whirlwind in regards to reports, in regards to news for the Toronto Raptors, and frankly, none of them have made any sense whatsoever. So we're going to break down what this Brandon Ingram nonsense is, why on earth the Toronto Raptors would even contemplate something like this, as well as dive into some positive news, including the new 10-day signing. So lots of stuff to break down. Of course, guys, trade season's just around the corner. If you are a part of the 67% of our viewers that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, make sure you guys hit that sub button. But let's dive into the news. Let's dive into the madness. The first thing we'll talk about before I get carried away, before I get, very, very fired up, is the Toronto Raptors have made another signing. Of course, we predicted that there would be a lot of 10-day signings over the course of this month following the team cutting Bruno Fernando. That was the point of his signing being non-guaranteed heading into the start of this year, and basically, we got some interesting ones. Of course, we had Ujiri, who didn't really have an opportunity to get out there on the court for the Toronto Raptors, but we did have a guy in his second 10-day stint actually have an impact and actually perform pretty well, and that is Orlando Robinson. And now news has come out that Orlando Robinson has been signed to a second 10-day contract. So this is a big positive in my opinion. Orlando Robinson, sure, his stats overall in the season haven't been that tremendous, haven't been, eye-popping, blow you away, but he's a 7-footer that blocks shots. He's very, very effective at getting rebounds, stifling the other team's sort of offensive stretches at the basketball net. And frankly, I've just been quite impressed with his impact out there on the court for the Toronto Raptors and his stint with the Toronto Raptors. Like, he comes out and you can see he actually has an impact on the game with his size, with his rebounding, with his defensive versatility. I mean, he's not some just generic kind of scrub that's out there on the bench for a G League team or a G League scrub that's on the bench for an NBA team. Not that any of these guys are scrubs. They all cook me and a lot of us out here in these games. But Orlando Robinson is very much a guy I would not be shocked to see actually make a rotation or make a roster spot. Maybe not right away after this 10-day contract ends. It depends on when all of these blockbuster trades, all of these moves actually end up going down. So happy for Orlando Robinson. Happy he got a second 10-day contract. Definitely well-deserved, and we'll see what happens next. But as you can see by the title of this video, as well as the rant at the beginning of this, Orlando Robinson isn't the thing that has me most fired up here today. That's right. The reports once again circulating around Brandon Ingram and the nonsense that's going out, frankly, has me just confused, bamboozled, whatever verbiage you want to use out here along these lines. Because Brandon Ingram, of course, is a good basketball player. In a vacuum, I'm not saying, Brandon Ingram's trash, he's this, he's that. What's the point? What's, what's going on? No, I'm not saying Brandon Ingram is garbage and he'd be cool to just magically insert into this Raptors team. But there is no earthly world where it makes any sense for the Toronto Raptors to trade Brandon Ingram, and this is where this new report just has me super confused. As Mark Stein has come out today and said, I'm told Toronto has emerged as a team to watch when it comes to Ingram. It remains to be seen whether the Raptors become more than that where Ingram is concerned, but the mere suggestions of potential Raptors interest is the most significant development in weeks when it comes to the New Orleans Pelicans forward who earned its lone All-Star berth in the 2019-2020 season out there during the pandemic. So Brandon Ingram is a guy that has been tied to the Toronto Raptors in the past. We've seen multiple reports. You've been tuned into the channel. You're familiar with some of the videos I've made on Brandon Ingram being linked to the Raptors. I'm sure there's a few of them because Masai Ujiri, the Raptors front office, there's enough of these reports that have come out over the past couple of years that indicates Masai Ujiri really likes Brandon Ingram as a basketball player, views him as an undervalued asset. And frankly, I think he might be right in that sense, that Brandon Ingram might be undervalued across the NBA. I mean, the guy is averaging 22 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, 5.2 assists, 37% of the three-point line. His corner threes are not that great, but he's only 27 years old, even though it feels like he's been in the league forever. And frankly, he's just a great on-ball sort of scorer, creator, does different things. Of course, he's not elite on the defensive end, but he does have a very solid frame. He has long arms, and he's been an all-star out there in the NBA. So it's surprising to me that no one will really buy in on Brandon Ingram. Of course, he's dealt with injuries over the course of his career and has been plagued by an injury for most of the season. But Brandon Ingram is a guy that I could see having Masai Ujiri wise intrigued by. But right now, at this very moment in time, in Raptors history, Raptors basketball, it makes zero sense to acquire Brandon Ingram unless we're going to rest him for the rest of the season. Because frankly, the capturing the flag is the mission for this season. It's what all the reports have been saying. And the Toronto Raptors right now are in a position to essentially try to do that, right? Like, despite the fact that this team is, of course, winning some games as of late. We've won 6 of our last 7. The team is currently 14-32. It's going to be tough to dig ourselves out of that hole. It's going to be tough to make it back to the playoffs. And the team wants a Cooper Flag. They want these young assets. And despite the wins, despite all this, and our ease of schedule coming up, but it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to try to win a ton of games moving forward in the future. We've already fallen from the 3rd best draft odds to 6th, and the Blazers are right on our tail. The Brooklyn Nets have lost 7 games now in a row. It's a messy situation out there in terms of trying to get that top draft pick. Of course, the odds just being at the complete bottom isn't the ideal thing. And the Raptors, the easy schedule has happened. I think once the schedule gets tougher, after the trade deadline, the losses will start to pile up. But bringing in Brandon Ingram just doesn't make any sense out there on that front. You look at his contract, you look at everything that's going on, he's an expiring deal, so you'd be trading for someone that could leave in free agency that's going to be getting a bag out there in the offseason. And Brandon Ingram is a guy that he's going to get paid a ton of money by some sort of team, one of these teams out there in the NBA. Maybe he's not, and that's why Masai Ujiri wants to get in early, to get a bit more flexibility, get more Brandon Ingram to sell on the Toronto Raptors organization. But he'll affect the tank, assuming he plays. Maybe they rest him for the entire year, then see what happens inside of the offseason, then make that push for next season, which is something I wouldn't be super down with, assuming, his fact. Because there's no market for Brandon Ingram right now. No one wants to trade for him. No one wants to make these moves. But the thing that makes make even less sense for the Toronto Raptors to go after him right now, again, in free agency, if you want to do that, then sure, I'll game. But what are the Raptors going to trade? I mean, Bruce Brown is an expiring. You're trading him for an expiring. I mean, is that the avenue you go? You package Bruce Brown, Chris Boucher. It's not like the New Orleans Pelicans are interested in getting off of salary. Brandon Ingram is on a 1-year deal. He can leave for nothing. The Pelicans are in a just desperate spot as the Toronto Raptors right now, so they're not worried about wins, losses over the course of the rest of this season. They are going to not give, they're not going to give Brandon Ingram away for nothing as a salary cap flexibility thing. He's an expiring contract, and the Raptors are a team that has been noted as something to desire flexibility, that's desiring something out there along those lines. So bringing in Brandon Ingram, assuming you're going to sign him to a big, long contract, doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And then this is where things get very, very scary in combination with the report from what we saw this morning. Because RJ Barrett's a name that, is not a guaranteed thing out there for the Toronto Raptors. We saw that report there coming this season. Of course, it would take a serious haul to get back in return. But can Masai Ujiri be looking at Brandon Ingram's expiring contract and say, hey, we'll give the Pelicans RJ and say, the $30 million for RJ Barrett over the next couple seasons isn't something we want to give up? I mean, that would be horrific. I think that would be very bad asset management. I don't think that's smart. I don't think that's the route. I don't think that's the avenue for this Toronto Raptors team. That's just my opinion. I don't think that makes any sense whatsoever, but that could be a perspective. All these teams trying to gain cap flexibility, trying to gain all these types of things. It doesn't make any sense to me moving forward into the future. I mean, I've seen some people say, hey, maybe Immanuel Quickley for Brandon Ingram would make sense. Give the Pelicans, but they already have DeJounte Murray. So there's no avenue where this really makes sense with the Toronto Raptors. I don't want to take on big salaries. I don't want to ruin all of our flexibility in order to bring in Brandon Ingram. Because, I mean, if we're going to make a move like this, we should have just kept Pascal Siakam. That's the reality of it. We should have just kept Pascal Siakam. He's better than Brandon Ingram. He's been with the organization for a long time. The vibes would just be better. And he wants to be here. I'm just confused. I'm shooketh. I don't know what to really make of this. So we'll see if more stuff comes out, if this is just one of those random reports, or if this is something that really ends up finding its footing out here in Raptors land. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys have the best thing as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.